Well, welcome back to day 9 of our 21 days of fasting and prayer. We're approaching the halfway point, and as we talk about an everyday relationship with Jesus through community, let me remind you today that you are not alone in this fast. Not only is this something our church is in together, but there are hundreds of people all over the country that engage with us in this fast. And so let's be reminded, we're not alone, we're in this together. You know, yesterday we talked about the importance of being engaged in godly community. But now I want to talk about how God uses community to mold and shape our lives. You know, you may remember the old children's story by Hans Christian Andersen titled The Emperor's New Clothes. And the story goes that there was an emperor who was obsessed with fine clothes. And so one day he comes into contact with two men who, unbeknownst to him, are a couple of swindlers. But they claim to be able to weave the finest clothes that only those who are fit for their position will be able to see. So as the emperor pays them to make him some clothes, the swindlers get to work, and the story says they set up 2 looms and pretended to weave, though there was nothing on the looms. All the finest silk and the purest old thread which they demanded went into their traveling bags while they worked the empty looms far into the night. And when the new clothes were finished, the emperor strips down and these guys pretend to dress him in his new invisible clothes. And as the emperor turns around, looking at himself in the mirror, listen to what his closest advisors are saying. How well your majesty's new clothes look. Aren't they becoming? He heard on all sides that pattern so perfect, those colors so suitable. It's a magnificent outfit. And before you know it, the emperor heads off to his procession before the whole town in his new clothes, or we might say no clothes. And one of the things we take from this story is that if we only surround ourselves with yes men or yes women, those who just tell us what we want to hear, not only can the consequences be devastating, but we will grow more and more detached from reality. And this is why being connected in godly community can be powerful, because it's one of the vehicles by which God speaks truth in our life. These are the people that love us enough to tell us the truth. Look at what it says in Ephesians. It says, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. I want you to understand the truth is how we grow. So we speak the truth in love to others, and we need others who can do this for us. You know, I'm so thankful for the truth tellers in my life. I've told you before my struggle with anxiety and the freedom, the measure of freedom that God has continued to work out in my life in this area. But the level of freedom I have experienced thus far started with someone who was willing to look me in the face and say, John, you got an issue here. You're functioning out of a place of anxiousness. So what are you going to do about it? Now, at first, I didn't want to believe him, and I was kind of irked that he was telling me I had an issue. I was like, man, come on, it's me. I don't have issues. You know, I have a pastor friend who used to say, if you don't have any issues, well then, brother, that's your issue right there. But today, I'm so thankful that that friend of mine was honest with me, because apart from his honesty, I would have never sought the help I needed and thus experienced the degree of freedom I've found today. Honestly, I probably would have done nothing and consequently allowed the enemy to keep leveraging my anxiety to keep me from growing into everything God has called me to be. This is the power of community. So do you have those type of people who, as one author once said, they stab you in the front, not in the back, stab you in the front? Have you given others permission to be that type of person in your life? There's great power that comes to our life through truth. And so, friend, I'm so glad you could join me today. Keep your eyes on Jesus, and I'll see you back tomorrow.